Hello. That was very awkward. Jesus. Okay. I haven't filmed anything in ages. And before that, I'd only filmed like 2 videos. So I don't really know what I'm doing, which is kind of obvious, but it's fine. Hello. I'm also going to try and look at the camera because I've got an issue with eye contact with people and with inanimate objects apparently, which is great. This is a very intimate moment. But hello. Welcome to my channel. Why am I nervous? I am alone in my room. There is nobody in the house. Maybe I'm nervous because the serial killer could jump in at any moment now. That would be bad. I'm very unorganized, if you can't tell already. But today, welcome back to my channel. The last time I filmed a video was like a year ago. Maybe that's a lie, but I think it's true. Because I was going to film every single week, and then I didn't do that because I was like, I could watch so many shows instead. That being said, this is a reading video of all the books I've read so far. It's, spoiler alert, it's not that many. I'm very much behind in my reading goal, but I'm hoping the next 2 weeks I'm going to catch up. So this video is kind of just like a recap of all the books that I've read as it currently stands, and then I'm hoping to do some like reading vlogs hopefully with like how I'm going with like actually bridging the gap and getting back on track with my reading challenge for 2023. Because I set out to read 50 books this year. I am not at that goal. I am at 20. Ooh. But yeah, so this is just me reviewing some books that I read this year. Very, very fun. And I'm also going to try and go in order, but I'm not really organised and I kind of just grabbed all the books and just press record. Yeah. This year I've kind of been in like a 2-year reading slump. I used to be a very active reader, very active writer, and then at some point like over COVID, like people got into books. I fell out of books. Like I started buying books instead, which I'm sure you can tell by my book tour videos. Another one of those is coming out as well because I'm still trying to update my bookshelf and keep track of it. It's a real problem, I'm telling you. But I've calmed down. I'm better. I'm telling myself that. Manifestation, I'm better. If you believe it. I have read some books this year, 20 out of 50. Kind of proud of myself. And so I'm just going to go through the books that I've read this year. The first book that I read this year was The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I probably said her name wrong. And to that I apologise. I'm probably going to say some people's names wrong. I'm very bad with like pronunciation and stuff. And it was the first book I read this year. Hefty book to start the year. I think I read this literally in January as well. Like it was like the very first book. This book I rated a 4 out of 5. That was probably because once again it was the first book I'd read in a very long time. So I was kind of like, not to say like it doesn't deserve the ranking of 4 out of 5, but like if I were to re-rate it I probably wouldn't give it that. It's good though, it's good. It was really nice, and I read her other book, I'll get into that later, but I read her other book and comparing them, this one is definitely a lot closer to a 4 out of 5 than that because it's nice, it's cute, it's sweet, it's funny, the characters are lovely, the story is great. I don't think there was much I could say to like actually fault this book. In reality I think I'll give it like a 3.5 out of 5. Cute couple. Great moments. I loved like the influence of culture in it as well. I thought that was really nice to like spice it up from a normal just like office romance. We had like a real strong family dynamic as well, which I really appreciated. I think it was a bit of miscommunication as well. So like some people hate miscommunication, and if you don't like miscommunication you might not like it that much, although it's not terrible. Like I think there's one major miscommunication point, but it doesn't like continue happening. It's not like a recurring theme that these people just don't understand each other when they communicate. But yeah, 3.5 out of 5 is what I'd probably give it nowadays, but it's a great book. Love it. The next book I read was Sally Rooney, Conversations with Friends. This book was to complete all the books that Sally Rooney has written that I have read. That doesn't really make sense, but kind of does. I've read Normal People and Beautiful World, Where Are You? I kind of read everything in reverse order because I started out with Beautiful World, Where Are You? Then Normal People, and then Conversations with Friends. And it's kind of funny because like my ranking of the books kind of went down a bit as that went on. But I love her writing. I know it's not for everybody because some people just don't like the punctuation style. Like no quotation marks, just pure chaos. But like it's not too hard to understand. And I think she does a really great job with like voice. and it's just, I know people hate this word, but it's very relatable, very, very quirky, very relatable. Especially as like a university student, I feel like these books, they echo with me a little bit. Like I feel like I've met these characters in real life before. Like, it's a good book. Moral's a little bit funky, but it's a good book. Should I talk a little bit more about that? Probably. It's not really a love story, but it kind of is a love story between Francis and Nick. But Nick is a married man to... She's a journalist, okay. Nick's married to a journalist, her name is Melissa, and Melissa she's an interesting character. I'll say that for sure. And Francis is best friends with Bobby, and I don't really understand how they meet each other. Like, Francis and Bobby meet Melissa, and they go out to dinner together, and she brings Nick, and so that's kind of where Francis and Nick meet, and there's kind of like this weird energy between them, and there's weird energy between Bobby and Melissa as well. But over time an affair starts, and it's kind of just exploring this relationship dynamic between Francis and Bobby, Francis's people in her life, Francis and Nick, Nick and Melissa, Melissa and Francis. It's just, it makes you think, and I like books that make you think. Sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable as well, but I think that's great. I think things that are uncomfortable and kind of challenge you are good books to read, and I think that goes for a lot of Sally Rooney's writing. If I were to recommend one Sally Rooney book, it's not in this pile, but I would say Normal People. I wish I'd read Normal People first. Beautiful World, Where Are You is a great book, but Normal People I think is her best book. This is a solid book as well. Next book. The next 3 books I read on Apple Books, so they're not physical copies, they're virtual. And it was like a series, and I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of me cheating a little bit to my reading challenge because they're novellas, not novels, but I just gotta remember them is the one thing. It's part of the Getaway series. I'm gonna try and put like the covers of them here. It was 3 of them. Number 1 was Uncharted Waters, the second was His Happy Place, and the third was Stockholm. I think there's more books in the series, but that's kind of just like where I like stopped. Because they kind of like, this sounds bad because they're written by different authors, but they kind of deteriorated a little bit for me. They were like solid, quick, easy reads that were kind of engaging, kind of thriller, romance, kind of keep you on the edge of your seat kind of books. Like definitely not like the same vibes as like this book at all. So if you like this book and you only like books kind of like this book, you're not going to like the next books I'm about to talk about. If you like this book, maybe you'll like it. I don't really recall what the book is about, but all you really need to know about these books in total, I don't want to tell you too much as well because it is like a thriller mystery, so I feel like I'll be giving way too much away if I threw out the little bits of information that I do remember. But yeah, if you want to be surprised, if you want suspense, if you want thriller, these books, and you want something nice and quick and easy, these books are it. Like, they're not too crazy like intense, but they do have like that little bit of like edge and a little bit of like, whoa, that's a little uncomfortable, it's a little weird, but it's okay. It's like, it's digestible. So yeah, for the first book, they were on a cruise ship, and that was Uncharted Waters, and it was kind of like a thriller mystery around like the people on the cruise and this particular passenger that she meets. The next book was His Happy Place, which was about this girl, I think, who just got into a relationship with a guy, and they go out to his cabin for the weekend. Do with that information what you will, noting the genre. I gave both of those to 3 out of 5 stars because, like I said, nothing special, but definitely not bad or badly written at all. I feel like, I mean, that goes to say, like, it was really easy to read. And I feel like if a book is, like, not very well written, it's going to be kind of hard to get through. It's going to be like a sludge, but this was kind of like a one night, one and done, nice and quick. Finished. Book read. That's why I kind of felt like cheating. But I feel like you're also going to realise that 3 out of 5 is kind of like my standard rating. I kind of always feel super harsh. But like 3 out of 5, it's just such a solid number, and I wish we could do like half or quarter rankings, but we can't. So a lot of books are a 3 out of 5 for me, except the next book in the series, which was a 2 out of 5, and that was Stockholm. And I don't know why I gave this one a lower rating. It wasn't bad or anything. Maybe I will say out of the books, I think this one was like a little bit more intense, but that's not why I put it down per se. I don't know. I think maybe I just didn't get into it as much, but I'm going to trust myself that that was the right ranking because I'm not about to reread the books. Yeah, they go on an anniversary trip, I think, to Iceland. I could be so wrong, but I just remember there was like an ice cabin. That's like any takeaway from this whole entire thing is get more into novellas because they're quick, they're easy, and you can learn so much about like different people, different walks of life, different voices in like 100 pages. And that's solid. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is, I have time to talk about this, Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Everyone and their mum has read this book, and if you haven't read this book, you should read this book. I feel like that's not a very crazy opinion or controversial at all. You might think that people are lying to you, it's kind of overhyped. It's not overhyped, really, anyway. It's good, it's solid. I remember I read a review about it the other day where someone was like, the characters are kind of like unlikable and that's why I don't like the book. And it's kind of like, I don't think that should factor into a review at all because I think the author intended on making the characters unlikable or giving them these traits of being necessarily like needy or arrogant or over dependent or too independent. Like these are fatally independent, you know what I mean? Like these are traits that I think the author purposefully put on the characters. And if you got that off of a couple words on paper, then I think she did a great job, you know, because she gave you a sense of this person. Now whether you like them or not, who knows, but I think it's the author's intention to make you feel a certain way about a certain character. It's interesting, captivating. I think it literally only took me 2 days to read this book after sitting on my shelf for like months on end, but it's a good book and you should start it. If you haven't started it, this is your sign. Literally start it right now because it's great. Oh my gosh, I actually really like this book. Has grown on me a lot. This is Convenience Store Woman by, I'm gonna say her name wrong, Sayaka Murata. This book is weird in like the best way possible. I mean it in like the highest regard. Like it is so funky and interesting and the character is so like quirky, genuinely. People hate the word and I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. I should put like a quirky counter on this video, but this character, like, she is unapologetically her and I love it. Like at the beginning of the book I kind of felt a sense of pity, but in the end you realise she really grows and understands who she is and who she is as a person and as an adult, and that like the traditional forms of life and traditional like ways of working aren't necessarily for her, and really just stepping into herself as an adult. And even here it says Kiko doesn't fit in because she doesn't, and she tries to appease others, and you just realise that no, she's happy, she's not hurting anybody, and she's just being herself, and that's really the only way to live life. Ooh, okay. We go on to our DNF section. I have 2 books here. I'm going to cover them really, really fast because I didn't finish them, so it's kind of hard to give them an earnest review. But I did give them the good old college try or whatever, but it's The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa and Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which I gave 2 stars and 1 star respectively. They just fell flat for me, which is kind of sad. I feel like with like the hockey romances, I've read so many of them, there's kind of just, it's gotten a bit tired and they're all kind of the same, and some of the tropes I see is kind of just like things I really would have loved 5 years ago. Like when I was like 14 years old, that would have been the vibe, like all possessive, kind of toxic, great, but now I'm kind of just like, it's dead, it's tired, and you both aren't really great for each other really in the long run, so let's not do that, you know? And then with The Worst Best Man, I don't know, why did I not like this book again? This book took me a very, very long time to get through. That being said, like, I started it last year. I think that's the book that kind of really cemented my slump last year. Where I was like, I can't read anything else like this. Is because I also feel like I'm betraying my books when I read 2 books at the same time, and so this book just kind of put me off reading because it's like, I don't want to read this book, but I don't want to start another book. What do I do? But it just was not for me. It was just so sad because I saw these reviews and the reviews made me buy the book because I was like, this sounds incredibly like up my alley and I love the premise of it, but then I feel like the execution just kind of fell short for me. Literally like 80% of the way done and I was just like, I can't do this to myself anymore. I've taken too much time, I don't like this book, I'm done. So those are my 2 DNFs. Maybe we'll find more, maybe we won't. But we're going to move on to Beach Read by Emily Henry. Yeah, I quite liked it, I think. It wasn't like the best romance book I've read in a while, so that's why I feel like 3 is a solid rating. Like I wouldn't change that to a 3.5 or a 2.5 or something. I think a 3 does it justice. Like the premise, decent writing, nothing to complain about really. The next book is Love Stories by Trent Dalton, and it is maybe the second non-fiction book I've ever read in my life, and it was fantastic. Like I have literally no bad words to say about it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It was beautiful. I loved the stories. Basically Trent Dalton, he's this journalist writer, and I think he's in Sydney, and he is in the city and he has a table and he just tells people to tell him like love stories. And they do. People come up to him and they just sit with him and they just speak. And there are so many incredible quotes in this book that I just loved, and so many moments and stories that I just really, really loved. And yeah, it makes you look at the world and words so differently when you read it, because it kept putting a smile on my face, or it kept making like me tear up a little bit. Like it was a great read. And if you're not into non-fiction, don't let that like scare you away, because it was really good, and I'm not into non-fiction like at all. Okay. The Stranger by Albert Camus. Trying to read more classics. Good book. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Solid. Not the best classic I've read, but it's good. It's short. Next book is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, another Taylor Jenkins Reid book. Great book. This is probably my favourite Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I guess a 4 out of 5. Unlike Daisy Jones and the Six, it is told in more of like a story style. Read it. It's good. You will not be disappointed. But that is The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Almas. Again, I gave that a 2 out of 5. And it's in the same universe as The Spanish Love Deception. Like, the main character in this book is best friends with the main character in this book, and like the love interest is cousins with, I've forgotten her name, so I can't even properly explain this. Catalina. Romance, generic romance. I think if you just want something nice and light and fun to read, I think that's a good book to read for that. Next book is The X Talk. This is the second last book I read, by Rachel Lynn Solomon. It's a good book. I was reading this book and the audiobook in conjunction with each other. Yeah, I gave it a 2 out of 5. I agree with that. I mean, it was very recent. I agree with that. It was good. I think I liked it a lot more in the beginning and towards the end, but the middle like really got me, like with like the fatigue of just reading. But it was very reminiscent of like a 2000s rom-com, which I really did like. The final book that I read, this book I read like maybe a week ago now. That was If He Had Been With Me, which I gave a 3 out of 5. It was a really good book, but it was very reminiscent of like the books I read on Wattpad. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this book was like from Wattpad. I haven't looked up like the background of it, but like it kind of reminded me of that. Like some of the things that happened in it, I was kind of like, morally it's a bit ambiguous, or like it's bad, it's just blatantly bad and I don't like it, and we're not addressing it as bad, we're kind of just ignoring it and acting like that's fine, but it's not fine in the real world.
They ask you how you are and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you...
I don't know, I feel like it just kind of excused certain things that it shouldn't have excused. But that's been my book review for my reading challenge so far. Yeah, got a ways to go for this challenge. And yeah, it's my first ever review, so bear with me if it was like really bad, but I'm working on it. Yeah, see you guys next time.